Oh, there's another one. Okay. If you guys see Felix or Cleo behind me, the like apartment we're staying in, I don't have an office. So they're like hanging on the ledge behind me a ton. So Felix and Cleo might make an appearance. They've been a little crazy with me working out of the kitchen. But I'm gonna jump right in, share this, because I have 9 million things I want to talk to you guys about today. Oop, maybe. Okay. So, does not want to let me do that. All right. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay. So just kind of jumping into a fall overview a little bit. I know a lot of you guys, I've been chatting with some of the stuff about individually. If you have questions as we go through, you can drop them in the chat. You can unmute yourselves and interrupt me, whatever is easiest for you guys. So jumping right in to kind of how the fall works. And I know some of you guys are already playing tournaments, but we're looking at more showcases into October. So I want to go through kind of the fall D1 recruiting calendar, just because that's where most of the fall kind of follows along with their calendar. D2s, D3s, they don't really have a recruiting calendar. So D3s can be out recruiting at pretty much any time throughout the year. D2s, the only time they go into a dead period in the fall is for National Letter of Intent signing week for a couple of days. But most of the tournaments really follow along with the D1 calendar. So right now we are in kind of this in between evaluation period, but it's only an evaluation period for what they call scholastic practice and competition. And scholastic means high school. So for some states, high school is played in the fall. So for those of us in PA, New York, Virginia, California, Oregon, you guys are obviously all playing softball in the spring. So we're in kind of this dead period a little bit right here where you guys can go on visits to campuses. For D1 coaches, they can host camps on their own campus, but they are not allowed to be off campus, at camps, off campus, at you guys' tournaments, anything like that, unless it is a high school event. So we're kind of here right now. We jump into an evaluation period for scholastic and non-scholastic, which is travel ball, which is where we're obviously seeing more college coaches this fall in general. But they can only be out on these couple weekends here in October and November. So I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I was playing in the same tournaments you guys are playing in right now about 15 years ago. And there was no really period in the fall like this. So it was open just like the summer. So the fall tournaments were running like Thursday through Sunday, just like the summer ones were. So I would leave for a tournament Wednesday night, miss school Thursday, Friday, play all weekend, play all Thursday, Friday, and sometimes I would be flying home on Monday, or I want to get home Sunday night till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and go to school on Monday. So the NCAA and the NFCA, which is kind of like our coaches association, came in and they said, wait, like timeout. This is not good for kids. This is not good for anybody. So they came up with this idea where in the fall, D1 coaches are only allowed to be out on Saturdays and Sundays for a couple weekends, basically to keep you guys in school more. Tournaments are still hosting games, usually like Friday evenings, that D2 and D3 coaches can still be at. And that's where you'll see at a lot of tournaments, they'll host games from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And their camp will be Saturday night from like 6 to 10 or 6 to 9, because that's when those D1 coaches are allowed to be there. They can't host those camps on Friday nights anymore because those coaches can't be out. Like I said earlier about National Letter of Intent signing period, that's that November 11th to 14th. And then when we jump into a quiet period, you can only interact with coaches on campus at their camps. And then that kind of takes us into the winter where you guys really aren't doing anything interacting with college coaches at all unless you're on their campus at their camps. So just kind of run you guys through that. And that's where we kind of consider those October, November dates as really kind of prime showcase time, because your tournament directors are hosting those showcases when D1 coaches can be there. So looking at emails, and I know this is everybody's least favorite thing to talk about and do, but this is really kind of the most important part of the fall for you guys, because we want coaches to know your name, not only going into these fall showcases, but also really setting you up to be well known going into the summer. So we need to be sending Pre-tournament emails. And if, let's say, you play back-to-back weekends, you can kind of turn that pre-tournament email into also a post-tournament email. So recap the weekend before, send an email out about the upcoming weekend at the same time. Pre and post camp emails are going to be really, really big, and that's an easy way to interact with coaches. If you're showing up at a camp without sending an email first, that coach isn't going to recognize your name. They're not going to specifically look for you at that camp. They're not going to try to engage you as much. Like if you're just showing up at a camp the day of, you don't interact with that coach at all before or during camp. It's almost a waste of time and money. So that pre and post camp email become really important. Pre-tournament and pre-camp emails should really be going out Tuesdays, Wednesday nights at the very latest of the week the tournament or the camp is, just because coaches are so busy. And a lot of times they set their schedules very early in the week so that they know who they're going to watch play the entire weekend. So there are very few times coaches are showing up to a tournament and just window shopping and just going out and saying like, oh, I know this team. I'm going to go watch them play. Oh, I'm friends with this coach. I'm going to go watch them play. There might be one or two game slots a weekend they're doing that, but they're really targeting games of kids who have reached out and shown interest. I know some of you guys aren't playing a ton because of fall sports. That just might be the schedule that your team is running. We still want to reach out to email pretty regularly with video from practices and lessons, academic lessons, academic updates, and other sports updates. Again, just so that coach really knows your name for when you go to camp, for next summer when you're back into the swing of playing more, things like that. The other thing to reach out about is if you drive through their campus at a tournament, or if you engage with one of their players, or if you know somebody who has gone to that school, like anytime you can make a connection with that coach, absolutely reach out and do so. Things we should be including in every single email you send is why do you want to go to school there? Beyond just, hey, I want to play college softball. Your major, your academic info, your team and coach info and fall tournament schedule, and then links to your video. Do not attach video. So a lot of times when you attach video, coaches have to download it because it's so big and it takes them forever to download it and then watch it. And as terrible as it is, if they have to download a video, they're usually not going to watch it. The other piece is a lot of coaches this time of year are responding to emails, they're looking at video, they're doing all of that from their phones. So I can think back to when I was a college softball coach in the fall. The fall was actually a lot busier for me than the spring was. And everybody thinks I'm a little crazy, but for fall, like there were days, like if it was a Thursday, I was on campus by 6:30 in the morning for team lift. I would usually grab breakfast with my head coach. We would practice plan for the day. I would leave breakfast and go straight into bullpens and individual hitting sessions, grab lunch, do some other duties for the afternoon. I would be at the field by usually 2:30 because we had kids that had to come before practice to get their reps in because they were going to miss practice for class. And then I would go to practice. By the time I got home, ate dinner, showered, saw my family for a little bit, I usually wasn't responding to recruiting emails until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So there were a lot of times where I was in between bullpen sessions or in between those sessions at the field where I would be on my phone looking at video, responding to recruiting emails, things like that. So the easier we can make it for those coaches to not only look at your email, but to make it user friendly for them to look at from their phone, the more likely you're going to get looked at and the more likely you are to get a response just because it's more user friendly. And I'm going to dive kind of into this things to include a little bit more as we get going too. I know I went through that kind of quickly. So the way we want to list your tournament schedule in your emails, so we always want date, event, and then location, just because there are so many different names for college showcases now that are all a little bit similar. Like pretty much everything has like New York State College Showcase. Like I know of two or three of these, and this one's in Binghamton. So the more we can make sure we add all of the information coaches would need, the better. I know that some of you guys have travel ball teams where they make those cute graphics where you can attach them and you can post them. I really encourage you to still type it out in your emails because it's easier for coaches to copy and paste this out of your email into their recruiting database than it is for them to attach that picture. So I know, again, it seems something small and something silly, But if you're saving coaches time, they're more likely to copy and paste your schedule into their recruiting database. So breaking it down more into individual tournament emails. So the tournament name should be in your subject, not your signature, your subject, and in the first sentence of your email. So if I'm going to make my tournament schedule of who I'm going to go watch what games on a Thursday morning, one of the first things I do as a college coach is I would plug East Coast Showcase into the subject line of my email and see what emails for the East Coast Showcase popped up. So if you don't have East Coast Showcase anywhere in your email or in your subject, that's much less likely to pop up if you just say, hey, coach, come watch me play this weekend. Like, here's my game times, here's the field address, all of that. Again, making it as easy as possible for them, adding in your field address there, especially because some of these tournaments now have 6, 7, 8 complexes. It's really important for you to add that field address. Most coaches do not know what field numbers are what when they walk into a complex. So if you can tell them, like, okay, like your team's teal, I know I'm looking for teal or whatever it is. And then we always want to add in who you're playing. And I know this is some extra effort, but let's say I'm a college coach and I'm looking at your email and I know that I'm recruiting a kid on this Philly Spirit team too. I'm much more likely to come to that 11-10 game because I can kill two birds with one stone and see you both play. Whereas if you just send me your schedule and your field numbers without who you're playing, I might not make that connection of like, oh, she's playing this Philly Spirit team. I should go to that game so I can see both of those kids. Again, keeping with emails, these are super important for you guys this fall, making it as easy as possible for coaches to find you. So you need to use your full team name with the coach's last name. And I use some of these bigger orgs examples a lot, like saying just, oh, I play for the Lady Dukes versus I play for the 16U PA Lady Dukes coached by Brian Jones or whoever it is, right? It's going to be much easier for that coach to find you if they have your full information there. I know a lot of you guys are in organizations where you have multiple teams at the same age level. And if you just say, like, oh, I play for the Lady Duke 16U, well, how do I know which Lady Duke 16U you're playing? And some of them are going to the same tournaments too. Always send your jersey number. I can't tell you the amount of conversations I've had with coaches where they're at a tournament to watch a kid and they can't remember what number you guys are. And they go back into their email to try and figure out what number you are. And if that's not in there, it's a lot harder for them to find you. Team colors again, coaches' contact information, just in case they want to reach out. I always have you guys add my contact information at the bottom of your emails as well, in case college coaches want to reach out to me. If you are especially attending showcases that are late September, early October, before that October 19th D1 date starts, we want to share your game changer info, your athletes go live info, whatever streaming stuff your team uses. And I think it's important too to acknowledge that D1 coaches can't be at your tournament if you're reaching out before that 10-19 date. Because if you're just reaching out to a D1 coach and you say, hey, I would love to see you at my tournament, well, they can't be there anyways. Like, it's important for you guys to show them, hey, I understand the rules. I understand how this process works. I know that you can't be at my game because you can't be out until 10-19, but I wanted to make sure you had my game changer info in case you wanted to jump on and stream the game and check out my skills or something like that. Um, and even if that coach doesn't jump on and watch you play, it shows them, okay, she gets this. She understands how this works. She knows I can't come to her games. And that coach might be more likely to then come see you play later in October. Post-tournament emails, like I said, you guys can kind of combo these with your next pre-tournament email if you want to. If you're playing and then don't play again for 3 weeks, I would definitely send that follow-up email and then send a different pre-tournament email. But we want to email coaches who were at your games that may be a good fit for you academically, school-wise, all of that. And really make sure that you dive into, like, yes, the thank you for coming to your game, but also your interest in the school, why you're interested in the school, all of that kind of stuff. If it's a school that you don't think is a good fit for you or doesn't have your major, you can still send them a quick thank you and just be like, hey, coach, saw you at my game this weekend. Thanks so much for coming out. Hope you had a great weekend. Especially for you guys who are on the younger side. This is important to do because coaches change jobs a lot. And just because a coach might be at a school that's not a great fit for you your freshman year, that doesn't mean they're not changing to a new school by your junior year that might be a great fit for you. So you sending that just, hey, thanks, really quick, sweet, short email helps you get to know that coach. The other piece of that is coaches know coaches. And if you're super respectful and you interact really well with a coach, you might not be a great fit for them major wise. You might not like the school, whatever. But if you say, hey, I so appreciate your interest. I want to major in this. Your school doesn't have it. I'll let you know if anything changes. That coach will send you to a friend because as competitive as coaches are when they play each other, they also want to see other coaches succeed. And if you're not going to play for them, they want you to play for somebody they like who's one of their friends too, right? Um, we want to reach out to coaches you emailed before the tournament, even if they weren't there. Like send along some video, send them a follow up of how your team did, how you did. Again, just so your name stays in their inbox. You want to send post tournament emails to coaches who are showing interest in you, and then coaches who are going to be at camps that you're attending this fall. So, again, kind of the same thing of we want coaches to know your name, especially if you're going to a camp they're going to be at. We want to make sure they know who you are before you get there. Video. So, pretty much every tournament, if you can, we want to send a few video clips to coaches who weren't at the tournament or they were only at a game for a few innings. I've been having a lot of conversations with you guys about coaches only staying at your games for a couple innings. That's pretty normal. So most coaches are going to watch about half a game unless they're really, really interested in a kid playing there. Then they're going to stay for a full game. But for them to split games is pretty normal, especially if they're trying to bounce complexes, catch different kids, things like that. So again, even if they were only there for a little bit, we still want to send that video follow up. Another big part of sending post tournament emails is we want to make sure it's very team focused and not just I did this, these were my stats, I. Like if you're starting more than two or three sentences with I in your email, you need to go back through and rephrase a lot of that. Because yes, recruiting is very personal, but coaches are looking for team players. And if your email comes across as all about you, that's going to put up a little red flag for them of, okay, I need to do some more research on this kid. Or it might just be, oh, okay, like I'm recruiting seven other shortstops and, this isn't a kid I want to dive into more. Jumping into pre-tournament emails, we want to reach out to coaches who are in your top 8 to 10 schools, regardless of if you think they're going to be there or not. Again, it's all about them knowing who you are, knowing your name, and then looking through the tournament list. So you can usually find them online, or the tournament director will send it out to your head coaches. So ask your coach. The hard part about tournament lists is that usually tournament directors don't have a list of coaches who have RSVP'd for that year. Usually their tournament list is the list of coaches who attended last year. Or sometimes the tournament director will put on their website like every single school who's ever attended their tournament in the history of the tournament. Like I can think of the TNT showcase in Quakertown. If you go on their website, there's like 175 schools there and it's got everybody from Alabama to UCLA on it. And they're like, oh, well, they came once, so we're going to put them on this tournament list. So looking at who's been there the last couple of years, um, I do have a list of who I see out at the tournaments I go to. So if you're going to a tournament I've been to before, I try and send you guys that list as well of like, hey, this is who I saw at the summer one. This is who I saw at the fall one, just to give you guys an idea of realistically who will most likely be at that tournament. Again, coaches who are showing interest in you, regardless of whether you think the school's a great fit or not, especially for you guys who are 27s and 28s on. The coaching carousel is a real thing. It changes a ton. Again, coaches that are going to be at camps you're attending this fall. And the big piece is that these can't just be copy paste emails. Like we can't just copy paste, change the first name of the coach, move on because coaches aren't going to come watch you play unless you put some effort into personalizing your emails to them. And I know that's unfair because you have to do all of this work on the front end to get a coach to pay attention to you. But there are so many more of you guys than there are college roster spots right now that it's really important for you to be doing the work on the front end because then that coach goes, okay, this kid's reached out a ton. She's giving me some great reasons why she wants to attend my school. I'm going to spend the time and go watch her play because she spent the time creating a relationship with me. Again, including video links, and we don't want to attach any video. and kind of going in more into that personalizing your email. So instead of just saying, I'm interested in playing softball at the University of Albany, because that coach knows you're interested in playing softball there because you've already reached out. That's why you're sending them an email. Do some research on their website and something like, I'm interested in studying childhood education and I'm enjoying the internship I'm doing in second grade this year. While researching Albany, I saw that you have a dual degree in childhood and special education. I'd be able to do an entire year of classroom experience before even student teaching, and I know that experience will help me become a great teacher. With you graduating a middle infielder in my class, I'd love to be considered for your team. So if I'm a college coach reading that, it's okay, she's excited about her major. She's already doing an internship. So that shows initiative, that shows leadership, that shows excitement about what she wants to do. You can tell me why you want to specifically study education at Albany and not just study education in general. And you can tell me that you did research actually on that major and knowing, okay, like I took this entire year of classroom experience before student teaching directly from their website. So I clearly took the time to go onto their website and find that. And then after I made sure it was a good academic fit, I went to the softball page and saw, okay, I'm a middle infielder. She's graduating a middle infielder in my class. So she's probably going to be recruiting a middle infielder. So if I'm a college coach, I'm like, okay, this kid's checking all of her boxes. And she truly did her research on my school before emailing me instead of just mass emailing and copying and pasting to 100 schools. Again, sticking with emails. If your team is not playing as much this fall, I know we've got a ton of fall sport athletes where you guys are kind of in and out of softball. We still want to be consistently sending emails about every 3 weeks. And this is something you guys can put in your school planner, put it in your calendar, something. I know life's crazy, especially for you guys who are fall sport athletes, but things that you can talk about outside of softball. Fall sport updates. College coaches love multi sport athletes, especially in today's world when it's really hard to swing it. But fall sport updates, any academic updates. So I know a lot of you guys just got back your SAT, ACT scores from the last round, send those across. If you're taking any AP college level classes, if you're changing your major, or if you're a freshman or a sophomore who's kind of falling in love with a subject you're taking right now and think you might want to major in something to do with that subject, like reach out to the coaches about that. Because at the end of the day, they want to know that you're going to their school for academics and softball. So if we're only sending softball updates all the time, they're going to sit there and go, okay, is this kid actually a good fit academically for this school? And coaches are doing way more research on that side of things and on seeing if you're a good academic fit because of the transfer portal now as well. Sending video from lessons and practices is another big one. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be pretty. Like it can literally be iPhone video. If you guys aren't playing a ton and you have some good lesson practice footage, send that my way and I'll edit it together so we can get that out to some coaches and share as well. Again, another great thing to post on social media as well, some of those quick little lesson practice clips, and make sure that they're just a part of lessons and practices. So for example, like don't go outside, hit into a net specifically for the video piece of it, right? Like go out to get better and take some video while you're out there. The other thing you can do is and athletic departments and teams are sharing a ton on social media. So social media for teams is a huge marketing tool and a huge recruiting tool. So they share a lot of what their team is doing in the fall. So you can follow those teams on social media that are your top 8 to 10 schools, and that you can actually go in and turn on notifications for that school's account. So you get a notification on your phone when they post. So you can kind of hop in and see like, okay, what are they up to? What are they doing? You can reach out when they had a play day. You can ask the coach about that, say, oh my gosh, I saw this on social media. It looks so fun. If the team did something together, so apple picking, fall team bonding, anything like that, you can reach out and be like, oh my gosh, like I saw you guys did this. I just did this with my team. Find some way to connect outside of softball. Um, I had an athlete who is really involved in her high school's like Special Olympics program. And she saw that a college coach and her team went out and volunteered at Special Olympics. And she sent in the coach an email about that and was like, oh my gosh, like, we have an upperclassman right now who is on our Special Olympics committee. Like they would be graduating when you come in, you could be on that committee. And it created this whole conversation with that athlete and coach that had nothing to do with softball and was all about something that they had a connection on about off the field. Um, you know, Same thing like attending fall sporting events. Like a lot of coaches will post of, oh, hey, here's the team supporting our volleyball team. You can reach out and say, oh my gosh, I love volleyball. Like I played growing up. Like it's awesome that your team was at that game supporting your volleyball team. Can't wait to be there with them someday or something like that. And it also shows again that you're invested in following that program and you're invested in making sure that that program is a good fit for you beyond just can I play softball here. Switching gears a little bit to camps, and I want to break this down by grad year because based on grad year, you guys should be camping very differently. So for 2025s, you guys really shouldn't be attending any camps, even if you're invited, because camp invites fly out like crazy still, regardless of your age, unless you know the coach is still specifically looking at 25s or you've personally connected with them, you're doing a visit with the camp, you've had a phone call, things like that. 26s because you can now talk to everybody. I know you guys are getting bombarded with more camp invites, looking at camps of your top schools, schools that have interacted with you, and looking at multi school camps. I'm not completely anti multi school camp, but I really want to focus on them if you're interested in 2+ schools there. So, like, one of you guys sent me a text, I think last week, and it was like, hey, like, this camp's before my tournament. Should I go? And my first question is always, do you like two or more of the schools that are there? Because those multi school camps tend to be more expensive. They tend to be hosted by camp companies, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that's a whole nother story. But if you're not interested in two or more of the schools that are going to that multi school camp, it's going to be more beneficial for you to wait and go to the individual camp on campus where you can get the tour and interact with the coach than go to that multi school camp. I think a lot of times we'll see like travel ball coaches like send out like, hey, we're going to this tournament, you should go to this camp beforehand. And a whole team of kids goes to the camp, and maybe only a couple of them really should have been at the camp. So really diving into the schools that are going to be at the camp, and you can reach out and ask the camp director beforehand, hey, what is the setup of this camp? How many athletes are you allowing at this camp? Because if it's a money making camp where there are going to be 150 to 200 athletes there, how much FaceTime are you realistically going to get with those college coaches? Right? I'd rather see you guys save your money and save your time and go to a smaller camp with that coach where there's maybe only 30 or 40 kids where you get a lot of FaceTime and a lot of interaction and that coach can really evaluate you versus you being one of 150 kids. For 27s, we're balancing attending camps at your top schools and then those multi school camps as well. For you guys, coaches are really starting this fall to evaluate you based on talent and based on fit for their school beyond just, hey, are you athletic? Are you a good kid? Do you work hard? Do you have a good attitude? Things like that. So, starting to target some of your top school camps as well. And then for 2028s who are really just getting going with all of this crazy, I want you guys to focus more on local camps and more on those multi-school camps. And for 2028, we're really looking at camps more to get comfortable camping, learn how to interact with coaches at camps, learn how to stand out at camps and things like that. We're not necessarily going to target super specific schools yet. It's more get comfortable with the process so that once you're a sophomore, junior, when coaches are really evaluating you based on talent and based on fit for their school, you're really comfortable with camping and really excited to go versus kind of that nerves of, oh my gosh, this is new. Like, how do I interact? What do I do? How does this work? If you guys have questions on camps, shoot me a text after this. I know camps are super personal. And I've been doing a lot of chatting with you guys already about what camps to go to, what makes sense, what doesn't. Um, Another thing I've been talking to a lot of you guys about. So college coaches showcase camps are sending out their emails and their letters for the fall. And for you guys who don't know, this is like a mass camp company that works with all sports. So they're not just softball. But basically, what happens is the coach writes the letter and sends it to the company. And then the company sends out those letters and emails. So I know a lot of you guys are getting them like they're going to your school, they might be coming to your house, you might be getting an email, but coaches don't even usually know what athletes are getting their letter because they just write it and blast it over to the camp company. And then that camp company keeps this huge database of names that they get them from tournament directors, they get them from you guys signing up for like online newsletters and they can get your email and your contact info in so many different ways now. It's kind of crazy. But getting a letter or an email from them is not true interest from a coach. And you can usually tell up if you look at when you get the email, it'll say from, and it'll be like notify at prospectmail.net or softball camp at whatever dot com. And then it'll say reply to the coach's edu at the bottom. We want to look for where it's from the actual coach's edu email account. Other ones that are kind of like that, college coaches showcase camps, like Junior Day is another one that spams you guys, Exact Sports. And they're not necessarily bad camps to go to if you're interested in a lot of the schools that are going to be there. They're usually, they try and pack them with about 100, 125 kids. So again, looking at kind of cost benefit there, are there enough schools there for it to make sense for me to go? Do I need to target smaller camps, things like that? But I'm big on doing your research on who's running the camp. So there are a lot of college coaches that do have their own LLCs and they are running their own camp companies. That's completely different than a camp company that's really just in it to mass produce and make a ton of money. Some, like I know the Utica softball coach has her own LLC and she does a bunch. The Westchester coach does. I know the Buffalo State coach does. So a lot of times the LLCs are easier for college coaches because they don't have to go through all the red tape of what the university requires for camps, whereas they can just rent the space and then kind of run camp how they want to run camp. So just do a little bit of research and you can reach out to me about that stuff too. I usually know who's running camps and things like that. I'm not a big fan of those pre-tournament camps or those fall like Saturday night camps. There's usually a ton of athletes and it's hard to stand out to coaches. Again, it's just more tournament directors trying to make more money off the camp. Um, and they bring in 15, 20 college coaches and it looks really great on paper, but the more college coaches they bring in, the more athletes they can bring in. So you might have 15, 20 coaches there, but you might also have 200 to 300 athletes there at the same time. And you're not getting a lot of face time with those 20 coaches. And really, the best way to get seen by and connect with coaches is to go to their camps that they're hosting on campus because you get to talk to their athletes, you get FaceTime with the coaches, you get a tour with the camp, and you can really see, okay, is this somewhere I could see myself going versus just going to that mass camp that's not on their campus. It's okay, I really like the coach. I like her coaching style, and that's great. But you're missing out on all those other pieces that you could get by going directly to their camp on campus. Please let me know what camps you're attending and the dates. So I always try to reach out to coaches after you go to camp and see if they'll share any feedback about your skills, about fit for their school. A lot of times, if they can't communicate with you per NCAA rules, they usually won't respond to my email. But they'll kind of chat with me when they see me out in person because, again, they don't want to respond when they technically aren't supposed to yet. But even if they don't respond, it's a really easy way to get your name in their inbox again if I'm reaching out after that camp for you. So just keep me in the loop with camps and let me know. Um, if you guys are nervous going into a camp, if you want to chat about kind of the layout of a camp, I can jump on a call with you and we can go through kind of the day and what to expect as well. And again, I hear from you guys a lot. Should I go to Camp X? And my first question is always, is it a school you're interested? Are there 2 to 3+ schools that you're interested in for multi-school camps? So before you reach out and ask me about a camp, make sure you check that box first. And okay, like this makes sense for me to go because these schools are a good fit academically. I think they're a good fit athletically, and then we can chat about it. The other piece I want to highlight with camps is just because someone tells you you should go to a camp doesn't always mean you should go. So a lot of times we'll see like parents of teammates say, "Oh my gosh, I went to this camp and this is where I got my offer and this was perfect for me." You'll see travel ball coaches say, "Hey, we're going to this tournament. You should go to this camp beforehand." Like your research on the schools and their fit for you should be the deciding factor on whether you're going or not going to a camp. It needs to be much deeper past like, "Oh, so and so got an offer out of this camp," or "Somebody told me this was a great fit," and things like that. Jumping into at tournaments, I'm getting a lot of questions on communicating with college coaches at tournaments and what to do and how to do that. So, junior college coaches, they can communicate with you at any time throughout your tournament, pretty much other than you actually being in the middle of a game. For D1, D2, and D3 coaches, they can communicate with you at the end of the day once your coach has released you. So, for example, let's say you finish the games for the day, your team's doing a little huddle, your coach is talking to you guys, you have to go do that huddle. And then once your coach releases you from that huddle or whatever you guys do at the end of the day, then you can talk to that college coach. Most coaches choose not to do this though. There are very few coaches I know, unless they're super, super excited about a kid, unless they're late in the process with a kid, they're not going to stick around to chat with you, usually because they have to get to other games to see other athletes. If coaches do want to talk to you after games, usually they'll tell your travel ball coach and say, hey, once you guys are done for the day, I'd love to chat with so and so. Please send them my way. Sometimes they'll just kind of hover and come grab you. Sometimes coaches will go chat with your parents after a game and they'll ask your travel ball coach, like, hey, I'm excited about so and so, gonna chat with her after your game. Once you release them, like, can you point out our parents to me? So coaches might go talk to your parents, and then as you come towards your parents, you join that conversation. But again, that's not something that I want you guys to expect to happen, just because it's a big philosophy thing with coaches. Some love doing that, some don't. It really depends on them and what they believe in with recruiting. If you are regularly communicating with a coach and you walk by them, you make eye contact, like that awkward, like, you know me and I know you, but we're not supposed to talk. Like, you can give them like kind of that little side eye wave and see if they engage. Most coaches will wave back at you and just say they can't talk to you right now. They're not supposed to acknowledge you first or really at all, but they'll quickly engage if you kind of wave at them. And it's good for you to acknowledge them because then they know who you are and that you recognize each other as well. Um, but that, like, being able to walk by and interact but not really talk can get a little awkward sometimes. So just give a little wave and then just know that they're probably going to say, oh, hey, we can't talk right now. Sorry, like, talk to you later type thing. Other things at tournaments. So keeping track of coaches you see at your games, especially if your travel ball coaches don't do this super well. Parents can try and see without being like super obvious. Or you can ask your coaches who was there at the end of the game so that you can email those coaches after the weekend. And the other big thing to remember is coaches are where you are. So they're in the snack line, they're in the bathroom area, they're in the parking lot. Like, how you and your family conduct yourselves matter. So I can think of, still to this day, it was like 10 years ago, and I was in a parking lot, like going to park to go into a tournament as a college coach. And a dad like cut me off in the parking lot to get into the space that I was going to turn into. And then I was like, okay, whatever, went and got my spot and everything. And then I got out of my car and was walking in, and the look on his face was like, oh my gosh, that's a college coach that I just did that to. Like, yikes. And like, even it starts in the parking lot because, like I said, coaches are where you guys are. How you treat your parents in the snack line, how you leave the bathroom area. Do you throw away your paper towels or do you just leave them on the sink? Like, I know all of that sounds so silly and so little, but coaches want to recruit good humans and they're looking at all of that stuff too. And if you're an athlete that's high on that coach's list, they're watching how you warm up. They're watching how you interact with your parents in between games. I have a lot of college coach friends that if they already know they really like an athlete, they will actually go up to your travel ball coach and ask that coach to play you out of position because they want to see who are you when you're not getting what you want. Because when your college coach is behind the backstop that you're really interested in, that you're talking to a lot, you want to be in your primary position. You want to go 3 for 3. You want to be the star of the game. And that coach will specifically ask your travel ball coach to play you out of position to see how you react when maybe you're playing right field, which is a place you rarely ever play, and you miss a ball. Do you hustle after it and do your job and have good game IQ and know where to throw that ball? Or do you kind of slink after it and just wait for the center fielder to go get it? Right? Those are all things that coaches want to know about you guys. The other thing that happens a lot, especially in the fall, because there are only so many game slots they can get to, coaches are often asking people they trust to watch you play or that what their opinion of you is. And these are people that you guys might not even know. So that this actually happens to me a lot. So, for example, in July, a lot of my college coach friends went out to Colorado to recruit, and I stayed on the East Coast for two different tournaments. And I probably watched 6 or 7 kids for college coach friends at those two East Coast tournaments. And those kids had no idea who I was. They had no idea that I was there watching them to then report back to one of my college coach friends. Um, And again, looking at the fall, like you've only got Saturday, Sunday for 6 weeks. So those coaches can only, D1 coaches can really only be in so many places at once. So for coaches that only have a head coach and an assistant coach and maybe a volunteer, they're going to rely on a lot of people, whether it's travel ball coaches, whether it's people like me, whether it's umpires. I have a lot of coaches who ask umpires' opinions of kids after games as well, which you guys probably aren't even thinking of. So just making sure and really focusing, like, yes, on softball for the weekend, but also just being a good human. Because A, good things happen to good humans. And B, college coaches are spending more time with you guys a lot of weeks than they spend with their own family. And I say this all the time, but like they want to enjoy their time with you. And if they're going to miss out on time with their own family to spend time with you, they want to make sure that you're a good person to be around and you're going to care about the team and care about the equipment and do things the right way as well. So, just little things to keep in mind as we go through all of that. I know I just threw a ton at you guys, but what questions do you have for me? As you guys all stare at me with really big eyes. This is like my least favorite part of these. Alrighty, going once, going twice. That's what I figured. Jenna, Dad's pointing at you. He's throwing you under the bus.
I wanted to know what's the right number of camps that we should attend?
Ooh, I'm not big on necessarily number of camps. I'm more big on what makes sense for you. So, for example, if you're a fall sport athlete, you're probably not going to a ton of camps in the fall. Where you should be targeting more in the winter. If you're an athlete that is not playing a fall sport, I would say probably 2 to 3 in the fall, depending on kind of where you're at and communicating with coaches as well and things like that. So we can jump on a call and talk about that, the two of us as well, and kind of look at what we should be targeting and things like that. I think a lot of it depends on age too. So like our 26s and 25s are probably camping a little bit more right now than our 27s and our 28s are too. Just because, I had a 25 last week, a coach said, "Hey, I want to do an overnight and you should come to this camp." So, she's probably doing 6 or 7 camps this fall, whereas more of our 27s are looking at probably 3 or 4. So yeah, I think some of it too depends on, are you looking at multi-school camps or individual school camps too, and how narrowed down you are in your major, what you're looking for in a school, things like that. So sorry, that was like a
Thank you.
half answer. You're welcome. Um, awesome. If you guys have questions on this stuff, let me know. I have another meeting at 8:30, but you can give me a call right after this if you want to chat or shoot me a text. But other than that, keep up with school. I know end of September is kind of a grind for you guys. So schoolwork, softball, all that fun stuff. But I will chat with you guys all soon. Alrighty, have a good one.